Sometimes I kind of wish that I should just hit the live and not tell you guys because you get rolling and it's pretty good.
Well, the screen told us. I mean, you have to be a little sneakier now.
I assumed you weren't that smart. Wait.
You're setting me up for something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Just set me up.
All right. We'll get into the nuts and bolts real quick. Podcast tonight is obviously at normal time, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard. But next week and the week after that, so Christmas week, New Year's week, I'm moving it to Monday at 6:30 Central Standard Time. And that's because, like you get close to New Year's, get close to Christmas. Nobody wants to watch this crap normally, really. So it's going to be even less people then.
Hey, there's 12 followers that'll be here today.
And I appreciate the hell out of every single one of them. Like it is cool that anybody watches this, but that's the schedule. Next 2 weeks, Mondays, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then after that, it goes back to Wednesdays at 6:30. I went and bought some really expensive beers because I'm supporting the Iowa Hawkeye football team $1 at a time.
Fancy like.
And then I was like, oh yeah, we haven't done the Bullhead thing for a while.
Every podcast so far, somebody's commented Bullhead in the comments.
Well, and I didn't even have a beer for some of them.
I mean, this is your first run. I get it.
Shane, you got a beer on you?
I got water here right now.
That'll work. Anytime somebody says Bullhead, you take a drink. That's the game. It's a drinking game. What? Gotcha. I don't remember how that started. Do you remember, Ryan?
I think it was pre-spawn flathead, and that was every other word out of our mouth. So I think you edited one, and you're like, God, we say Bullhead a lot. So it kind of evolved out of that.
I mean, that makes sense. Do you have very many bullheads in North Carolina?
I think there's a few in some of the lakes, but not a whole lot. Not that I'm aware of, anyway.
I mean, if anybody would catch him by accident, it'd be a crappie guy, I feel like.
Yeah. Same habitat.
I mean, they like brush piles.
Yeah. We catch more channels and flatheads off brush than I do anything.
I could see that.
Yeah. We catch a bunch of big flatties during the summer.
Oh, I bet, man. You probably in the spring. Oh, probably pretty much any time the water's above 50. Oh, so yeah. That'll be a good segue. This is Shane. He's I'll just call him the crappie doctor. Like if you're having crappie problems, he knows the solution.
He's the guy.
He didn't say that. I just made that up right now. That was pretty awkward and cringy, but I guess that's kind of my thing. But he's a guy down in North Carolina. I'll shut up. You introduce yourself, Shane. You know more about yourself than I do.
No, I run a guide service here in North Carolina, Yak and Lakes Crappie Guides. I also do some just little stuff on YouTube, nothing like these guys do with some stuff to do it. But I also work for Catch Feeder Outdoors, handling all their wholesale and distribution. So not doing as much guiding as I used to, but I still do it because it's just one of them things I'll never give it up 100%. I love taking people fishing. I love sharing the passion with everybody and continuing to grow the sport for sure.
Yeah, I totally get that. Seeing people light up when they reel in a fish, or if you have a really good trip and they tell you when it's over, like, this is the greatest fishing day of my life. You feel like the man,
Yeah.
Well, it puts it in perspective because people, we get to fish all the time, right? And whenever you get somebody out there and they have that and you hear that stuff, sometimes you take for granted how good it can be. And some people have to go out. I mean, it's not like that for everybody all the time.
Well, most people don't have the time. And a lot of people don't have like the attention span to really focus on and put together patterns and then keep track of them every single year to then expand upon that and catch more and more. Like most people just walk down to the bank or hop in their boat or whatever and just go fish. Like
that's right.
Be lucky to get out there once a month.
Yeah.
It's hard to make a pattern when you fish 6-7 times a year.
Well, you got your spot and you got your bait, and it doesn't matter if it's April or December or August. Like you go to your spot with your bait, and some days they're biting, some days they ain't. And seems to be most people that I talk to. That's kind of how they fish.
I mean, that's kind of how I grew up. You know, we had like 3 spots.
Sure.
That's it. You put the line in the water wherever you could go.
Yeah, and they got pounded.
Yep.
Especially when school is out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do something useful for everybody listening. Gift ideas for fishermen. Me and Ryan talked about this a little bit, and I should have threw you a message, Shane, but I get distracted, as you probably know. But the first one that came to mind, if you've never heard of it, is McKinsey's Fisherman Hand Scrub. And if you're a dirty old cat fisherman like myself, it's lemon scented soap with crushed up walnuts in it. So it's gritty, but it's like grittier than the mechanic hand soap. And it does a really good job of like cleaning all the guts and grime out all the wrinkles in your hands and stuff. And you can even like you get a hand scrubber brush and scrub your nails. And even Ella, who might have the most sensitive nose of anybody I know, gives the green light on that.
She lives with you. She cannot win that title.
Maybe she's just used to it by now.
What's it called again?
McKinsey's Fisherman Hand Scrub or something like that.
That's definitely a good gift.
Tom says a new Sea Arc will work as a Christmas gift. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what list we put our name on for that, but I'm in.
I don't think nobody disagree with that.
Have you looked at those new flexes?
Yep, I've seen them when they first had the first one, not this past February, but the February before, 2 years ago. I guess this February will be 2 years since they launched it. Yeah, I seen it at Grizzly Jig Show, and they had the first one there. They're pretty sweet rides.
Yeah, because they're what 21 footer, 2172s. They're rated for 250 or just 200.
I think so. I think they come out with a shorter one this year too.
Yeah, the 19. I'm pretty sure. But
yeah, I know that I didn't get to go with them. I know it's. Oh, I forget where we were at. We were at a show. We were somewhere, and they were there. Caleb jumped on one, and he said it flat out would fly.
Mm-hmm.
But you put that 250 on one of them aluminum boats, man. It ain't no stopping it.
No, and they get on plane now.
Yeah, it's automatic.
It's more of a bobsled than what you're used to.
Well, I got another gift idea I'll talk about, and you guys think about anything. If you guys think of any, feel free to chime in. But Stryker came out with these gloves called stealth gloves. And if I was smart, I'd have them sitting here so I could like show and tell and stuff like that. But
we'll take your word for it.
My brother just showed up and Skip's losing his mind. But anyway, they're like neoprene and waterproof. But the cooler thing on top of that is you can still like operate the touch screen on your fish finder or still send a text with them. And
I think I've seen those.
Yeah, so they're waterproof neoprene gloves that still operate with the touchscreen. Like how sweet is that?
Those today on the ice. My hands got a little chilly.
Yeah, I bet it did. Well, you were being a real ice fisherman and like probably and not fishing in a hut. You were like looking.
I did not. Fish. No, I kept the bare minimum out there today. I only had about 2.5 hours to get out, so it was pretty much the bucket fisherman without a bucket.
Shane, you ever ice fish?
I have never got to do it. It's on one of my bucket lists to do, hopefully. Actually, like I say, got to go up to Erie this fall, and do some fishing up there. But ice fishing is definitely on the list. I definitely want to do it.
Erie would be an awesome ice fishing trip. Get some of those 30 inches through the ice. That'd be awesome.
Well, we need to get him on some crappies through the ice. Trying to think, Lake of the Woods has really big crappies in it, and you could target them through the ice for sure.
You think a lot of water to cover unless you got some knowledge.
You think you could survive being in somewhere that cold?
Yeah, man, the cold don't bother me. I got plenty of stuff to stay warm.
Yeah, that is the difference. Like, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. I am a firm believer in that. With that being said, though, I don't like the cold.
Yeah.
I like to wear shorts and Crocs, and a t-shirt and all that
I'm the
stuff.
same way. Everybody around here at the boat ramp stuff, when we go do when I do trips, even in the wintertime, I'm out in my flip flops and socks. I don't put boots or nothing. I hate wearing tennis shoes, and I don't put shoes on till the absolute last minute when I get in the boat or whenever I have to. So
The
I get
ice starts
that.
forming.
yeah,
I wear rubber boots or Crocs, and
yeah,
that's pretty much it. And if it gets cold, I'll wear wool socks in my Crocs.
yeah,
That's my system.
yeah. You talk about Christmas gifts and stuff like that, man. I bought myself one about a month ago. Well, probably not even a month ago. I broke down and bought me one of those one of the heated vests.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, I don't know, it was normally like $150, something like that. And they had them on sales like $85. I bought another battery to go just to have as a backup. Man, I bought that thing. I've wore it out twice, and I've turned it on low for about an hour. One day here in High Rock, it was probably 44 degrees here, maybe. Wind was blowing about 25, and about an hour that thing on is all I can stand. So I was ready to come out of everything.
See,
But dude, it was. I wish I'd have had that. I wish I'd have had that thing or broke down and done that years ago when we were fishing tournaments and pouring down rain, 38 degrees, and I could have just turned that thing on and stayed a little at least core warm, at least anyway.
Yeah, that makes a
that's
big difference.
that's the difference
Yeah,
between crappie and bass fishing and cat fishing. Is you bought a heated vest. I bought myself a boat heater.
yeah. I got one of those too.
Yeah, yeah,
We've got some of that stuff, but we've got some that don't blow out, and we've got them, but we're moving around the boat so much.
that's it.
We don't have the enclosures like some of the stuff that goes to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're nice. I mean, I bought it as much for clients in the boat as I did
Yep.
myself. Like I got good clothes, I'll bundle up, but not everybody shows up to the ramp wearing, good winter gear.
Yep.
Like so that'll help make sure people are comfortable in the boat. We got a few other good ones in the comments. The Joel said rechargeable hand warmers, like that's a good
Yes.
one.
Those are real good.
And they're cheap, like
Yeah.
or and you can reuse them. Like the shake the packet ones are nice to keep around, but the rechargeable ones are really nice. And if you forget to recharge them, like I would all the time, if you are in a boat or you bring a battery pack for your phone or whatever, you can just recharge them there.
Yep.
Gift cards are a good idea.
yeah, that's what I was going to comment on because I get a lot of gifts that just never get used. So gift card is always a good idea.
Oh, here's a
I get it.
sponsor.
I mean,
But
I'm hard to shop for because if I need something or want something, I go get it.
yeah,
So I understand I'm pretty tough to shop for, but gift card always fits in the pocket.
1,000,000% to the right place. I got tipped in a gift card on one of my trips in November. I didn't know the amount. I found the amount out yesterday when I ordered some Domino's, but somebody got me a
73
Domino's gift card. And that was sweet.
I was surprised it made it to the truck.
Well, so I told you I cleaned up my diet for a month, and he was the first guide trip I had after I was like, no sugar, no alcohol, just meat, vegetables, fruit for a month. And then I get tipped a Domino's gift card. I'm like, well, I hope this thing doesn't expire.
That's a sign.
Well, it got used, so it's not like it was the end of the world, but it was I hung it at the finish line.
So how'd you feel the first week of going to a strict diet? I mean, could you feel it right away?
No, not really. Because my diet isn't that bad all the time. I just basically just cut out candy and beer.
Well, what else is there?
Right.
That's two major food groups.
Oh,
And the funny thing with the candy is I never liked candy until I became a teacher, and there was just candy everywhere. Oh, other Christmas gift idea. This is a little bit of a sponsor plug too. Is the fire starters, the Bigfoot Bushcraft fire starters. And yes, you could do dryer lint, you could do cotton balls and Vaseline or whatever, but one like the cotton ball one's messy, and like the dryer lint doesn't work as good, and they're cheap. Like you can get 100 of them for $20. And then if you use my promo code Spencer Bauer, another plug, you save yourself 10%.
Yeah, I bought some like 3 years ago, and I haven't got halfway through the pack. I mean,
That's
they
it.
last forever. Yeah.
Yeah, you buy 100 and you're good. I don't care. I mean, you have to think about that. To go through 100 a year, you're probably camping
Every
at least
3 days, you have a fire.
right. You got to camp like 50 days, and I spend as much time outside as anybody, and I don't even get close to that. Shane, let's dive into the crappies.
All right.
Do you like? Well, you probably thought about Livescope a lot because you're in the crappie world, and they're like the first ones to dive into Livescope. But I'm just curious, as somebody you've been fishing them your whole life, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
What do you like crappie fishing better with Livescope or before Livescope?
I like fishing it. I like fishing it with it just as much as anything, because that the live scope's not going to make a bite. Live scope will, if you use it the right ways, it'll educate you more every time you use it than if you're not. And the way I say that is the way that I fished for years before we got it. I've learned so much the last, I don't know, what has it been, 4 or 5 years since they've come out now, something like that. We've had it
Oh,
pretty much since it come out. I've learned more on patterns that we thought were true and everybody lived and died by that aren't. And I fish different ways that I never thought I would.
sure.
The fish pattern different ways than I ever thought they actually would. Um, That's like when everybody talks about, muddy water. When the water gets muddy, go vibrant, go vibrant. The fish slow down, it get cold. Man, I'll tell you right now, these crappie move in 40-degree water just as fast as they move in 90-degree water.
Yeah.
They they can see a whole lot farther in this dirtier water than anybody ever imagined.
Absolutely. That's one thing I
Um,
noticed ice fishing, just to mirror what you're saying is before I was using Livescope, though, it was a flasher, and you'd
yep.
see, the little line
Oh
and
yeah.
in little line. And, there are certain days you'd get it moving and they'd zip up 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet sometimes.
Yep.
Or you'd tease them from the bottom and they wouldn't hit it till they were 5 foot from your hole and you're fishing in 20 foot of water, like that stuff happens.
Absolutely.
So would
Now,
you say, go ahead. Go
as
ahead.
far as fishing and stuff like that, man, I still love fishing. When I go out, we got some trips. Most of my guide trips that I do, everybody's live scope. And they want to go out, use a live scope. They want to cast to them. They want to jig for them. 98% of my trips, we're either still doing three things out of it. We're going to be tight lining, 14-foot rods, pushing like we always done. We're going to be long line trolling certain times of the year. Or during the summer, we're going to be pretty much tight lining right over brush with 10-foot rods sitting still, rods in the rod holder, watching the rod bend, and having fun. That's what you got. Customers want to go out and learn how to do that. When you take them out there and try to get them to understand the live scope, what they got to do, after about 30 minutes of them going, all right, man, this is great, but, and you got their buddy sitting back here waiting for it, you put both of them up in front of the boat, and we're weighing on them on the brush piles. That's all they want to do is half of them want to sit back, drink beer, and catch fish. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get behind that.
Yeah, it is honest. I mean, that's what they want to do with it. The 98% of my trips, we're doing that. We're not focused. Now, I'm using my live scope to stay on top of fish more, being able to put the baits in front of the fish more often. So that's going to equal more fish. I mean,
Yeah.
They're paying you to stay focused. They're not
yep,
there to focus.
exactly.
Yeah. And that instant feedback is huge. You
Yes.
know, if you're doing something and it's turning fish away and you swap it up and here they come back, that's huge
Oh yeah.
about putting more fish in the boat.
Would
And
you
these fish,
say you're addicted to Livescope or are you addicted to getting instant information?
I'm addicted to the learning part of it and seeing what the fish and seeing how their pattern transition, how they act. But another thing is they talk about how crappie never feed, crappie feed up. You got to stay above them. You got to stay above them. Shoot, man, I'm going to tell you what. we catch fish dragging baits 10 foot below them crappie, and if they know they're there, they will turn down and go get it. Like I mean, like nothing you ever seen.
Yeah, they get tuned up. We got a
Oh
question over
yeah.
here. I'm curious too. Just to sidetrack, what's the do you use minnows much? Any much live bait, or are you throwing plastics and hair?
I use both. I let the fish tell me what they want to do. If I'm in the summertime and we're fishing brush and we're hammering on them, we're going to be sitting there with minnows. Depends on
What?
in the lake. So I let the fish tell me what they want.
So how are you hooking your minnows?
So all my minnows get hooked right through the nose,
Okay,
right
so
up through
there.
the nose, right through the lips. Where basically, if you set the hook and miss the fish, he's gone. If
Yeah,
there's a lot of weight, if there's a lot of bounce in the boat, and we got a rough day, I got to hook them a little bit deeper. I don't like it, but that I want them hooked right through the lips and the nose as easy as they can because they're going to be a whole lot more freely on there.
sure. So you're fishing some live bait. Are you fishing plastic or hair on your jigs?
Both. Yep.
If you
Depends
had to
on
pick,
if I'm sitting still and moving really slow, I'm using hair jigs and moving that. If I've got some speed where we're pushing, 3/4 of a mile an hour to a mile and a half, I'm probably going to use plastics, get a little more action out of baits.
so the crappie gods came down from crappie heaven, and they told you that
I think he already lives there.
yeah, no, he's already in crappie heaven.
uh,
You can only fish one. You get plastic or you get hair, nothing else, no more. Which one you going with?
Go with a hair jig probably.
Okay. I wondered. I've been hearing that more and more, but I just hear it like secondhand, never straight from the horse's mouth like I get
Yeah.
the chance to now. So
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't realize what you can do with a hair jig because you can do a lot of different. I mean, it's the same way with plastics. You can manipulate the plastics. You can change the profiles. You can change a lot of stuff with one bait that most people don't realize and take advantage of.
gotcha. I mean, that makes sense. So if
Yeah.
it's versatile and effective,
Yep.
sure. I'm kind of backtrack a little bit. I probably should ask you this from the beginning, but I kind of struggle, not struggle, but I mean, obviously I'm asking the question, so I'm wondering. But I love big fish that fight hard, that are challenging, that are tough to catch. Like crappie do not get big. They do not fight hard. Like compared to a muskie or a flathead or even a blue cat or something, or even a largemouth, you're going to catch way more crappies than you are those other fish on a similar day.
Yeah.
So not to say that crappies can't be a challenge, but if you're going to go out and catch one crappie, one muskie, or one flathead, I feel like the crappie is going to be the easier target. So you miss that challenge there. What really sucks you into crappies? It seems like everybody I talk to loves to eat them, but like what you do has to go beyond just throwing fish in grease.
Man, it to me, it's just to me, and where you guys are at. I mean, y'all probably white crappie, black crappie. What's around you guys?
We
Mostly
get both.
black. We get a little
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're prominently black crappie here.
Okay.
I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for saying this when I hear it say or whatnot. Whitefish are easier to catch.
You're not going to catch any heat. Nobody cares. It's fine.
Whitefish are easier to catch. Black crappie are meaner. They fight harder, and those fish do not sit still like you see all these videos and stuff. Now you catch them during the winter in December, January, February. They're gonna sit there and do it. But a stubborn blackfish or a big school of blackfish of 500 fish in a school, sometimes they can be finicky catch, but they're gonna fight and they're not gonna sit still for you. So
So, but back to the question: why do you love crappies and not largemouth or stripers or catfish? Like, why are crappies your fish?
man, it's something I hooked on. I've done it all, and it just draws me back to crappie because I can fish different ways for them, different times of year, patterning the fish, catching them on a slip court, casting to the bank. It's just I don't know, man. I just keep getting drew back to crappie everywhere I go.
So you think
Um,
it's like the style, the fishing style that sucks
I,
you in?
I just love. It's just something about the crappie fishing. I mean, that's my favorite one to do out of all of them. I love striper fishing. I love catfishing. I love doing it all. I don't. not take opportunity to go to any of it, but crappie fishing is just where I've had fun. And maybe it's because I've done that more as a kid than anything. I've made a ton of great friends and stuff. We've had a lot of great memories doing crappie trips and traveling to the big tournaments when we had opportunities to do all that stuff, and just traveling to different states and fishing for fun. I mean, that's just the crappie always drew it back. I don't know. I mean, it could be a ton of things that brought me to it, but that's the one that gets me tugged back every time.
See, I get that. Like, I talk shit on bass, but it's not that there's anything wrong with the bass itself. I just don't enjoy the style of fishing that
Yep.
is bass fishing. But every year I get a little more sucked into crappies because I enjoy fishing a jig and I enjoy that thump, and
Yep.
they
Oh yeah.
suck that in. Do you get that good thump if you're like, well, obviously you wouldn't feel it if you're got rods and a rod holder, but if you got a 14, 16-foot rod and you got
Absolutely.
it clear out there with the sinker between you and your jig, you still feel that tap when he whacks
Oh
it.
yeah. You going with these blackfish, you're gonna feel that thump and he's gonna yank that rod out of your hand. He's gonna hit it right
Whoa,
behind my
whoa,
mouth.
whoa. We're talking about a half pound. Like, you were talking about shit I use for bait. Okay. He ain't yanking it out of my hand.
They gonna hit it like a tank and roll with it.
I could get behind that. But for real though, that thump, man, like,
Yep.
because I love that with walleyes. Like, that's my favorite part. You're just cast that, especially cold weather in current, and you're just letting the river just sweep it, and you're reeling it just enough to keep it off the bottom, and then suddenly you feel it.
Yep.
Set
That's
the just
and
freaking
and
love it.
we're just getting set up right now. Our water temperatures really just got cool enough. They just got into the 50s. In the last 2 weeks or so, these fish right here are really starting to school up real well. I'm talking, I mean, you can pull up on a school and have 50 to 100, and there's times we pull up and there's 500 or 1,000 fish in a school, and that's when it gets fun. You just cast that jig when these schools get that big. Then
Mm-hmm.
we can sit back with some customers. We can either leave the long rods out and drive into them. If it gets too messy with so much going off, that's when we'll back off and grab a couple casting rods. When the schools are so big, then it's easier for them to hit them targets and be able to pull them fish in. But yeah, that's that thump. You can get it. I
Hell
Nothing
yeah.
like feeling that sucker thump at about 50 foot out from the boat and watching him come up and hit it. That's the cool
Dude,
part.
yes, I
Yeah.
absolutely, and that's the thing why I get sucked more and more into crappie fishing every year. Ryan, we're gonna have to do some ice fishing for crappies before I head home if you got fishable ice.
Yeah, absolutely. In Iowa we don't have many crappie guys because we don't have the slabs. There's very few places where you can go and consistently catch your 13 to 16-inch crappie, where most of
Or
ours are the 9 to 12 variety.
or so people think, but we're gonna keep that on the down low because I know a couple places and
And there are some, but not many.
I yeah, I don't even film videos in a few of them just because I like to keep it not to myself because it's not I'm not the only guy who's aware of it, but I don't need anybody else knowing.
Them small spots will get beat up if you open it up. And nobody knows about it.
That's it.
And
It's not.
It's happened a lot around here. When I was guiding, full time before Catch the Fever and all that stuff, I was guiding on 8 different lakes around the house.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had times where I could get away, do things when the bite changes, when the spawn come in. I could shift lakes. Most of the 4 main lakes is on the same river system, the Yakin chain, which Spencer, I know you've been out here before.
Oh yeah.
All those lakes spawn different, different times. And then when it gets funky and then the boats and the cities come out, I've got 3 or 4 city reservoirs that we got on and do that stuff. And it's a lot of people's picked up on certain things and they learn about it, which is great. That's all about it. People call and ask, I'm gonna tell them where we're catching fish. It don't There's enough fish out there on the lakes that we have. And Spencer like said, where did you come fish with? Was it Tillery or something?
I was down there.
I think that's where
Yeah.
I first met you.
Yeah. Yep. It was on
Yep.
Tillery. Hell, I even caught a crappie there. No
Yeah.
live scope.
Oh yeah. So I mean, it's all these lakes has got it. We've got so much bait in all these lakes. There's enough. the yak and chain that we've got here, there's no size limit, no krill limit, no nothing on the crappie.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we had so much of an overpopulation on the lakes that when you go out there and catch 300-400 crappie a day. No lie, but you may not catch a dozen that are big enough to take home and eat.
Yeah, you can't have it all. You get
Yep.
quantity or you get
Yeah.
quality or you get a little bit of a balance of both, and it's
So
kind of like what you want.
they took that krill off about 8 years ago, and it's made these lakes out here now some of the best fishing lakes, in my opinion, on the East
Mm-hmm.
Coast. I mean, that's just when you come to North Carolina, you're gonna hear, High Rock Lake's really running up the map on the crappie side between it and Jordan Lake. That's, to me, that's the two main lakes that you're gonna the fish when you come out here.
Right.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, it's
Jordan
nice to
Lake, we
hear
had
the
a
success story.
conversation. Jordan Lake's one of those lakes that not a lot of people catfish, but I'm gonna tell you, there's some big catfish in that lake, but nobody fishes on it hardly. They don't run tournaments on it. It don't make sense to me. I think it'd be cool watching do a tournament out there on that lake that nobody's that I, as far as I know, and like I said, I don't know it all, but I've never heard of a catfish tournament out there on that lake.
That's kind of like Lake Ouachita. They had the Twisted Cats tournament trail, which is the one that I fish.
Yep.
When I do fish tournaments, they had their points championship on Lake Ouachita, which does have big blue cats in it. But the funny thing is the weather and everything didn't line up. And I think the winning weight, I mean, you're talking the top 50 cat fishermen in the tournament in that tournament because you got to qualify for it. You can't,
Yep. Yep.
it's no entry fee. You qualify, you just get to go and
Exactly.
I think compete for like 10 or 15 grand, without paying an entry fee, which is pretty badass. And but so you have the 50 best guys in the whole tournament trail, and the winning weight was I think it was less than 20 pounds for five or
Wow.
three for under 20 pounds. And it just sucked, and there are big fish in there. It just wasn't, it's just an
Yep.
inconsistent fishery. I mean, not saying Jordan's like that, but that was the first thing I thought of about
Oh
having a
yeah.
tournament on a new lake.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that a lot of the stuff for that, man, I think you take some of these lakes that don't get fished and some of these places that's never had tournaments on them and do it, or places you don't do it. I think that's what drives, to me, I've always done better when I go somewhere I've never been before. I hate fishing tournaments on my home lake because I know so much about that body of water that I always second guess my what I'm doing on there, because I've done this for 10, 15 years. I'd rather go somewhere that I've never been and go out there and fish the fish that I found for that week.
See, that's funny you say that. The more I fish tournaments, the more I realize that the less I know, it's the worse for me. Like the more time I spend on a body of water, the it's like significant. I do significantly
Yep.
more, but I think that's just how I'm wired. I'm like very
Yeah.
progression.
But he's
Like,
talking, 10, 15 years, and you're talking 5 to 10 trips.
No, I mean, I
Yeah.
literally think like the more time I spend on a place, the better I am from a tournament perspective, just because I have my progression. Like if A doesn't work, then I go to B, the B to C. And like, because I think it's just I'm not that great at reading the conditions like
Yeah.
on the whim, whereas a lot of good fishermen are. So if I have the the background, whatever the history on a place, I know that if it's winds out of the north plus rising water plus cold front means I
Yep.
need to go over here. And if I don't have that on a new body of water, like maybe I'll find fish, but probably not the winning fish.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just suck at tournaments altogether.
Well, you don't fish them. Like, of course you're going to suck at them because you don't.
I mean, the tournament day is fine. It's just the pre-fishing and the amount of time you got to put in pre-tournament day.
Yeah.
I struggled with it.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna ask y'all this: what about some of these tournaments that are doing these like 1 day pre-fish, 1 day and then fish tournament? That's it. What's y'all's thoughts on that stuff?
Hometown boys have a huge advantage, I would say.
Data has a huge advantage, absolutely being able to do it. But I mean, you think about like you said, I kind of like it to the point of, for one, it's so expensive to go anywhere and fish anywhere now.
Yeah.
Fuel, stay at the whole 9 yards, and if you're out there, everybody's got one day. It's a whole lot easier to maintain. But then again, if it's a big body of water and what you're doing, it could be worse. But just thoughts. I was just curious what you guys thought about it.
I
Yeah,
know the tournaments that we went to, there was people pounding that lake for 2 weeks in a row, and it makes fishing pretty tough.
Yep.
That pressure.
yeah. I mean, fish in those instances, you're almost fishing against the fishermen more than you are the fish because every pattern's going to get found out. All the fish are going to get beat up, and then your winning pattern is probably going to be something that is completely unorthodox and doesn't make any freaking sense because, or at least no sense to me,
Yeah.
because what should be working doesn't because all those fish have been sore lipped.
Yeah. So I'm just on the crappy side of it. I'm the same way. Back then you used to get pre-fish before Livescope and stuff. Now, like I said, I've fished just a handful of tournaments the last couple of years. But before we first got it, shoot, we'd go pre-fish, but we wouldn't go for, I used, with God, and I could spend more time on the water than anybody, but I wouldn't go actual fish. I may go catch one or two, size them up, figure. I'm doing more looking now. If I was gonna go pre-fishing tournament on my lake, my home lakes right now, for this weekend or whatever it was, if I was gonna go look out on Friday, I wouldn't even catch a fish on Friday
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
because there's
that's
no reason to. And then that's where I think a lot of the guys are out here. I'm like, yes, oh man, Wednesday I had 13 pounds and Thursday I had 14 and tournament days, man, I had 10 and a half. I said, well, you called them all week long. I mean,
well. I think that's what Ryan was getting at was like you only have so much time off. So I
yep,
feel your pain because you come down and pre-fishing for a tournament. Like if we were just on a fishing trip, we'd be catching.
Yeah.
yep,
Instead, we're just driving around looking at a fish finder screen the whole damn time, and
yep,
I get it. You just gotta to be a good tournament fisherman. You just gotta love tournaments. That's what I'm figuring out real quick
yep.
because it's fishing, but it's different. Like you got to be more focused on winning than simply just enjoying your time out there.
Well, the biggest part of the tournaments on anything is decisions. Did you make a good one or a bad one? That's all it is. Did you zig when you should have zagged?
Hmm.
I mean, that's all it boils down to.
Well, the number one thing determiner of whether you made a good decision or not is how much weight you bring to the scale that
Yep,
day.
Yeah.
exactly.
All right. Side note: this is kind of a fun one for the tournament fishing, but do you think, as we talked about scope a little bit, do you think the crappie industry is better off with scope or without scope?
Uh,
And this
I
is my
think it's
last live
actually. I
question.
think
So,
it's hard to say with it. Do I think it's hurt the industry? I think it's changed the way the industry is looked at the last couple of years. I think it's gonna the way people fish and what they're doing. They say, that's like everybody saying all the tight lines going away, buying multiple rods are going away. Well, I mean, yeah, some of it has, but I still see boats on the water every day with 6, 8 rods hanging out of it. They're doing their thing. It, it, you may not sell as many rods, or you may do something different, but I don't. I think it's brought light to it. I think it's made a lot of. I think it's made a lot of people fish better with the live scope that are dependent on it versus actual fishermen. They can go out there and pattern a lake and put stuff together without it.
sure. That's one thing that I will disagree with till the end of time is you hear people say all these pro fishermen can't catch fish without live scope or without all their fancy electronics and stuff. And it's like, okay, bud, step in the boat, and, welcome to the Thunderdome and see what real fishing actually looks
Yeah.
like. Cause those guys are freaking good.
Yeah.
But then
Oh
you,
yeah.
you,
It makes a difference. I mean, it's got it. I mean, like right now, if something happened, people ask me all the time, if your live scope went out, you going to fish tomorrow? Yeah, I'll go catch fish tomorrow without it. But if I lost my side scan, I'd put it on. I'd go buy one right now, but I'd drive wherever I could get it. I'd rather have my side scan than I would my Livescope.
Well, I mean, I agree. My point that I was driving at was just the electronics don't make the fisherman; they make the great fisherman even better. Is the
Yep.
thing, and
Yeah.
like in some instances, some of them guys are so good it's almost scary. It's like good thing they let a lot of them go because there wouldn't be any left if they didn't.
Oh yeah, that's where I think the bass world fell on it a little bit. Was they were just so reluctant, and which I know. I've talked to guys and stuff. I've heard of how the like on the bass side, the bait sales have went down because everybody's doing things different now, and the hard baits and stuff. But it makes people better. But I guarantee you, if you talk to any of those guys, they're probably fishing areas they probably would have never fished either.
Right.
Which is great. Like I said, I go by stuff, and I've pulled in areas for the last 2 or 3 years I'm fishing, and I've been on this lake my whole life, and I drove by it, and never even thought about it, and
Hmm.
it's producing some of the biggest crappie on the lake in some of these areas now.
What's the biggest crappie you've ever caught? Somebody asked that earlier, and I'm curious too.
Mine's a 290.
You say that like you're ashamed.
Well, I've had opportunities, and it's one of those things. I've seen some big fish. Having Alaska, I've seen them. I've had people catch them that were 3 pounders around us. We've seen them, but I've not been lucky. I'm not ashamed, but I'm ready to bust that 3 pounder.
Is that the benchmark of like an absolute true trophy? 'Cause-
Yeah, I mean, a true trophy to me is whatever where you're at and what you want. When I first, it took me years to catch my first 2 pound fish.
right.
I mean, like, oh my God, we'd be fishing, and this was before live scope and everything else. We'd fish tournaments, tight lining, and I'd have my 4 rods on the front of the boat, my partner would have his, and I'd go back to get a drink or do something or whatnot. My rod would go down, and boom, it'd be one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just like nonstop for years. I couldn't, but whenever I broke that, it was like, all right. Then it was like, all right, 2 pounder. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. There's another one. But yeah, 3 pounder is any trophy. A 2.5 pound fish around here is a trophy, in my opinion, where we're at.
You're just that kind of a guide, you know. You're great at putting other people on the big fish. You don't get to reel them
Well, most of the ones on to come on the guide trips, most of them want to fill the coolers. They like catching the big fish, but if I tell them we can go get big fish, we may go get 8 or 9 bites during the day, or we can go, fill up that cooler, and they're like, yeah, let's go fill the cooler
in. Yeah.
up.
I'm going home with a fish fry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And we do.
that's
I have some customers, they come back, they bring their kids, we do that stuff for them, but then some of them come back and go, all right, I really want to focus on getting my new PB, and that's what we do. I mean, we may go catch 12 fish that day, but it's all in getting the fish that they want. I mean, people,
right.
I take it for granted sometimes too when I go all to like it's just like you said, like it was ashamed of it. You put somebody else get on the boat and they're like, oh, what's your biggest fish? They're like, oh, probably over 2 pounds. And whenever they set the hook and they throw a pound and a half in the boat, and their eyes are going like cartoon eyes, going, "That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing I ever caught." And I said, "I thought you caught a 2 pounder. That's the biggest one." And I know we're on big fish. That's when it gets fun
Right.
because
Yeah.
then we're getting ready to beat their personal best 2 or 3 times that day, probably.
Hell yeah.
So, but it's
Yeah,
been
there's a
fun.
lot of 16-inch crappie in Iowa, but I've only seen 3 or 4 that were truly 16-inch crappie. But a
Yeah,
lot of my buddies say they've got them.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I'm
I've
gonna
caught
say,
3, but they were all in the same day, 15 minutes apart. I was fishing for bait at a farm pond for just little green sunfish along the bank and caught a 16, a 16, and a 17,
uh,
20 minutes apart. It was just like the craziest thing I'd ever seen from a crappie fishing perspective.
uh, yeah, we've
But
I did
got
that
unfortunately,
in
I couldn't
spring
get
on
over
spawn
15.
beds one year with a floating rapala. Me and my buddy were throwing floating rapalas trying to catch bass out of a freaking farm pond, and these ginormous crappie came off the beds and nailed them. That was fun.
yeah.
Wasn't
There's a lot of guys around here doing a lot of bass guys I know. They'll call me like, especially this time of year, and they get schooled up. Them guys out there, and correct me if I don't know whatever it is. I guess like the jerk baits that dive
yeah.
out or whatever. So they're out there and get on these schools of these big jerk baits and just smoking the crappie with these things.
Probably giants too. Well,
Yeah, I mean,
probably.
and they're catching some, 2 pound fish all the way down to. They sent me pictures of a daggone 4-inch crappie that's come up and just tried to eat that thing.
Oh yeah. Well, that was
I
my
mean, it's
next thing
killer.
was like you probably get the big ones, but you probably get plenty of mediums mixed in too.
Yeah.
Wasn't there? There was a state record caught recently, maybe Illinois or Indiana, but the guy who caught it was bass fishing,
Huh.
and it was like a 4 pound whatever ouncer,
Neat.
and it ate like a big worm or something like
Oh
that.
Lord.
The old wacky worm got him.
We've got in the last, let's see, this year we had one of the anglers put a 4 pound plus in a tank over here in towards Raleigh.
Hmm.
Towards the warehouse. We've got 2 4 pound plus fish in that tank. One from one of our anglers this year, and then last year one angler, Brian Perry, caught one. Both those fish are in there. But we also had another guy we fished with down on High Rock. It's been 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. Him and his partner, they caught I think it was like a 430 and a 350 during the tournament,
Jesus.
and kept those fish alive. And both of those fish are just right down the road in Charlotte, in that
What?
tank on that stuff. So they run doing some things, done it all. But that's what I'm saying. We got some big fish around these lakes that doing. I
What?
mean,
Have you ever had a client catch one over 3?
I've had a buddy catch one over 3, not a client. I've had clients we've been out anywhere from 2. I think the biggest client one I had was like a 278, I believe.
Say the biggest blue cat I've ever seen with my eyes, Ryan freaking reeled in on my fishing rod.
I yelled at you. You didn't wake up.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't move fast enough, huh?
I was not moving fast.
Well, he'd already caught an 81 like an hour and a half before that, so
Oh.
I didn't feel bad.
Maybe that's why, because I was tired from reeling in that blob.
Oh.
You do much catfishing down there, Shane?
Yeah, like I said, we go most of the time. Whenever I'm down here, most of the time I end up on the guys' boats with local guys, local guides, or some of the retailers and stuff that I work with. We'll go down and fish their tournaments. And I jump on the boat with them. So, but all my stuff I've done it a couple times out of my boat since I've had it and got it rigged up and rolling. But most time it's just getting the invites to go to everybody.
Yeah. No, that's the way to do it. Like the best way. I mean, just hop in somebody's boat who's dialed in on something and then reel them in.
That'd save me
It's
about
fun.
20
It's
grand.
fun. I love doing it
Yeah.
because when I go out there with those guys and we do it, I love fishing with them. I love fishing with all the different people because I love seeing what that person does a little bit different from the next one, a little
Oh,
bit different from the
million
next one.
percent. That's
I
my
mean, it's
favorite.
crazy.
That's my
I've got
favorite
some guys
thing.
that are like, no, 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 don't put the bait on. I have to do it. And I'm like, okay, no problem.
Really?
No problem.
No, my favorite thing about hopping in somebody else's boat, I don't give a shit who you are. Like every single person you hop in the boat with, you're gonna learn something.
Yep.
Well, there was one trip me and you went on. We hopped on some guy's boat and we learned that he didn't know what the frick he was doing.
We learned what not to do because we didn't catch shit.
We froze our ass off for nothing.
At least it was a sweet boat.
It
Like,
was a sweet boat.
he looked like he knew what he was doing. What I'm gonna go grab another beer. So dive deep into this one. We've had a variation of this question before.
You know this one.
Oh, thanks, buddy. If you were a crappie lure, Shane and Ryan, what crappie lure would you be?
A crappie lure.
Yep.
What would I be? A hair jig, I guess.
Hair jig. You can hit any situation.
Yep. It works in all situations. All of them do, but I'd probably go to that if that was the last thing I ever had.
Yeah, I'd have to be a solid bodied little plastic, I guess, with the feet that kick. I don't even know what the hell they call them. I don't crappie. I got one buddy who loves crappie fishing,
You
And
say something about a solid body and feet that kick.
yeah, I don't know what they call them. The little solid bodied plastics for crappie. That's all we use pretty much. But we got
What'd
a
Shane
local
say?
we got a local lake that you just pound the 9 to 12 inch crappie, and when he gets away and wants to go fishing, that's what we do. We jump on his boat and we go crappie fishing. And I
Gotcha.
usually keep about 50 of them for the bait tank, and
Hell yes.
good time.
What'd Shane say? What'd you say, Shane?
Hair jig, I guess.
You took mine. The only reason I say that is because I'm growing my hair out, so I'm starting to look more like a bucktail.
You and Skip gonna have mullets.
Right.
uh,
I will never have a mullet. I don't say never very often, but I'll never have a mullet. I ain't knocking the mullet, but I just understand that some things just aren't for me. And a mullet is not for me. You got any good guide stories, Shane?
oh man. I got, not good. My biggest thing is, I guess, I don't know, it's funny. My best story is the guy I took back to the dock after about an hour of fishing. Uh, Dropped him off, and uh, knock on wood, I've been blessed on having good customers, good stuff. I had one guy that, like I say, showed up that morning,
They
went
don't
out
they don't have
fishing.
to be they don't have to be bad things, Shane. It could be like some kid who lost his mind when he caught a big crappie and was like
Oh,
celebrating or
Now hold
something.
on, I want to hear where this story goes.
well,
Okay, sorry.
no, I had one guy. Yeah, a long story short with it, he had to got on the boat, wanted to fish. He wanted to, I protect myself from things. Somebody calls me and says, "Hey, can you guarantee my cooler filled up?" Most of the time, I'm like, "We're gonna go fishing. I'm gonna do the best. The fish gonna do it. That's it." But got on the boat, fish, brush pile fish in the middle of summer at 6 o'clock in the morning. Usually takes about an hour or so for the sun get up, fish get on brush good, and then it'll turn on. And we hit about two or three spots. He goes, "Well, I guess my guide trip just got half price. You ain't put me on this. You ain't got that." So after about third spot, I said, "We going to the number one spot." We had about 8 or 10 fish in the boat. We ain't been on the water 40 minutes. And go back to the dock, tie off. He said, "You got to go to the bathroom?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "Trip's over for the day. I appreciate it. This one's free." Went back to the live well. There was guys there I knew at the dock. They were standing at the live well. They were looking. They were listening. They knew something wasn't right with it. Went back to the live well, grabbed the fish I had, and started throwing them in the lake. "No, it is." I said, "No, sir. Your trip was free, Bo. Have a good one." And he ended up calling two or three of my other buddies trying to get on the boats. And one of them he called was actually standing in on the dock that day. And he goes, "You'll never believe the story I got told." I said, "Well, I guess I'm gonna see it on Facebook." And he goes, "I don't think you are." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I told him I was standing there recording the situation," and he said, "Hey, nobody heard from him ever again."
You got blacklisted.
Oh yeah. If you're a guy, I mean, you guide and you do that stuff. I've had some trips that are tough, and I just like, all right, I'm not doing that again. They're not getting back on the boat again. We're gonna finish this and be professional about it.
Sure.
But yeah, some of the fun stuff is watching kids explode. Yeah, the best part was uh I got a I got a I got one kid. He just turned 8. He's fished with me for his 6th, 7th, and 8th birthday every year.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
That kid is going to be. When I say that kid's a fisherman, his dad raised. He's been running around the farm ponds. His dad bass fish some. Does it? He's grew up fishing. Dude, every year that kid gets on boat, it amazes me. I sit back and don't do nothing. Hang him the rod and let him go. I
Hmm.
tell him to cast 30 foot out at 2 o'clock. He's doing his thing. He caught one this year. It was about a pound 80. And dude, that kid was coming unglued on that boat.
Hell yeah.
And
That's
he was
awesome.
just like, I was like, you got him, you got him. And as soon as we got him in the net, I wasn't allowed to touch that fish. He had to unhook it. He had to get it in there. It was his boat. All I was allowed to do was net it and lay it in the floor. But
Get
That's
out of the
awesome.
way.
yeah, he was, and it's, hey, he knows when we get on the boat and, he'll get on the boat and he's got his thing. His dad sends me pictures of him out there in their bass boat, which we've got it set up to do stuff. He said they're in the driveway with his fishing pole, sending a picture going, "Yeah, he's trying to figure out how to be like Shane the guide." I was like, dude.
That's awesome.
Those kids
Actually
really
had
stick out, you know.
that fish actually got shared. What was it? Jimmy Houston's page.
No
Because
shit.
I seen it pop up and I called his dad. I messaged his dad. I said, "Hey man, did somebody steal your picture?" He goes, "No, but," he said, his kid watched it. He said, "We sent it in, didn't think nothing about it." And they posted that thing on the Jimmy Houston page, and when he caught that fish, it was awesome. It's cool to see that.
That is cool.
Yeah, Jimmy Houston ain't sharing none of my stuff. That's pretty sweet.
So, I don't know. Like I said, they sent in and done it, but it was pretty cool to see that picture that come out of our lakes, and it was pretty cool. And it was
Hmm.
just that kid. It was just him and the fish. That was a cool thing.
Yeah, those kids stick out because I mean there are a lot of kids that like fishing, but there's like levels to everything, and when you meet that one young kid that you can just tell that he doesn't love fishing, but fishing's like a part of who he is.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I've got to meet one kid that I really think that he's just a fisherman. He is a fisherman. He doesn't like fishing. He doesn't love fishing. He's a fisherman.
Mhm. Yeah, this kid was we were trying to hit it with the weather wise around his birthday doing stuff and doing it, and he was out there and his dad. I said, "What we doing?" He goes, "Trust me, he's in there begging his mama right now to miss travel ball practice to come out here and fish." And I said, "Well, how's that going to go?" He said, "I'll text you in a little bit." That kid was doing his best, and he's like you said, that's going to be a fisherman. That ain't. He's just got it, man. He's just got it.
Hell yeah. You've ran into a few of them, haven't you, Ryan?
Yeah, I own one that is
Yeah,
very
you
similar
do.
to that. That kid, he'd rather fish than breathe. He's been that way forever. I mean, which is awesome. Growing up, while he was growing up, that's where I got all my time on the water. Oh, I got to take him fishing. Dang it.
Well, Sam in the comments said that he just ordered a 2070 Crestliner HD retriever, and I was looking at them. That is a big old platform, and you'll be able to haul about as many people on that thing as you want. That'll be a sweet rig for zipping around everywhere, and I think you'll dig that. And we talked to Shane about his boat. You said it was an '09, but I don't remember what kind of boat you said it was.
so mine's a 2009 Ranger 620. It's a deep
Okay.
V. It's basically made for up north. It's a walleye boat. Is what it's made for.
Yeah.
Is it a glass
So
boat?
yeah, it's all glass. It's a lead sled, buddy.
What do you pull it with?
I got a Dodge 1500. I pull it with. I got a dually too, but usually stays with a 1500.
Okay. So do you have to haul it very far with that?
I can be depending where I'm at. The closest lake to me I fish the most is about 20 minutes.
Okay. So I've never owned a glass boat. Have you owned a aluminum boat?
Yep,
So what's like the biggest differences like ride or any of that other stuff?
the noise.
Like they're quieter or louder?
Oh, yeah, well, just the weight, the boat slap from the water.
So on the aluminum or on the glass?
The aluminum is way louder.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got buddies that have aluminum boats and stuff too, and we're fishing and we're crappie fishing and using these having Livescope and seeing this now. You would be surprised how many fish run from an aluminum boat that you can't even get close to.
Really?
Yep.
I could
I
absolutely see that.
I
Like
can
just
go out. We can go out and fish brush during the summer if we got not even a real bad windy day, and not let's just say it's 5 6 mile an hour wind, nice little break on the water. Sit there with my boat, you don't hear nothing do it. We've pulled up on buddies or customers' boats that we're tuning them in, and we pull up, get set up, and then watch those fish leave that brush pile.
really.
Yep.
Jesus.
You think
Well,
about it, you think you'll hear. I mean, it's just that constant slap on that aluminum
I
that
hear
is,
it. It's just
especially like
interesting
if
that the fish
the
give a crap.
shallower the shallower the water is, the worse it gets.
Sure.
That's not good news for our fishing. Everything's
No,
shallow.
I will never own a glass boat. Like I'll never have a mullet and I'll never own a glass boat.
It's hard to pull them off sandbars.
Yeah.
Yep. Or like we're at, and and like I said, especially you've been here on High Rock Lake, there ain't no sandbars. It is red clay mud. It's like a suction
Mm-hmm.
cup here.
That is, and that's worse beaching your boat on that than
Yep.
sand.
We had some guys last year before, get up on the river, up the river, and they've run it their whole life. And that river, it changes, and they run up, got a little too close to the islands, it got stuck, and it took 5 boats linked together to get a 18-foot aluminum tracker off the mud.
Jesus.
Wow. It
Yeah,
just glued itself down,
dude,
huh?
it was like it's this up here. This when you hit it, it's like a suction cup.
Jeez.
I take sand, all that stuff, any day of the week over what we got.
Do you crappie fish the river much, Shane?
Oh yeah, the river. Our whole High Rock is the river. It's the river system that flows through all 4 lakes. But yeah,
But
we run that river up and fish it.
but is your river always a river? Like, is it always got current, or is it
Yeah.
fluctuate a bunch with the dams?
Mhm. So if you got High Rock, it's the lake. Once you get to the
Right.
top side of the lake, the river starts dumping into it there. So when we run up the river all the way up past, did y'all fish High Rock at all when you were down here, Spencer?
No, but it's a reservoir. So you have a
Yeah,
reservoir, and then the
yeah,
river dumps in.
but it's constant flow on that river.
Do you
What
get bigger crappies out of the river or smaller crappies on
we'll
average?
say the crappie up there, they'll get in them big shallow pockets up there. And
Yeah,
that's where everybody wants to go up there to win them tournaments and do it. You can catch the bigger fish down the lake too, but when you get those fish up there, they're more contained.
gotcha. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian, because immediately I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in river crappies. I think river crappies are way cooler than lake crappies for some reason. They taste the same. Like you put them in a skillet, you ain't gonna be able to tell the difference. But I just think catching them out of a river is cooler. So, and
Yeah.
then to hear that they get bigger. So what do you? So you say shallow pockets. Like what are you looking for when you're going crappie fishing in a river?
So the river up there, most of the stuff we find, our river's moving enough up here where them crappie ain't gonna be in there. They'll be in certain areas that it's got the breaks where all the trash has got it. You might find some behind it. Most of the fishing up here is going to be almost like an oxbow. It's going to be pockets and creeks right off of it.
So like
That
creek mouths are good
no, it's
spots.
like it's well, I say creek. It's basically like a big a shallow pocket is all it is.
Okay.
It's just flooded pockets that are 5 or 6 foot deep at the deepest part of it, and they're just in there roaming between the willow trees, all the flooded timber, and back and forth in there trying to get out of that river current. Where it's moving up here, these fish ain't gonna stay in the current. They're coming out of it.
So do you find that water level and current, like how much current's rolling through and how high the water is, affects their position more than season? Or is there like spring, they're going to be here no matter what, fall, they'll be here? Or is it high water, they're going to be here no matter what, low water, they're going to be here no matter what?
To me, the length of daylight is what I run off of anything that I'm doing.
So that's
Yeah,
more
we're
important.
gonna pattern them. We can pattern them down to time of year, of course. Get in certain areas, they're going to be in the mouths. They're going to start hitting the bank certain time of year. But when those fish really start the spawn on that side of it, I'm looking more the time of the day being longer when they really start hitting into it.
But isn't length of the day the same thing as time of year? Because like the length of May 1st is gonna day length of May 1st is gonna be the same every year.
So the length of the daylight is what I look at when I'm looking on the spawn bite.
Okay.
I don't care if it's. I don't care if the
67
water
degrees.
temperature's not
Yeah.
there yet. If the
Yeah,
length of the day's there, those fish will be there.
gotcha.
We've caught fish in December down here in the back of the creek in the back of Crane Creek in 3 foot of water. I had my rod tips. I got a picture somewhere. I had my rod tips hanging off the rocks. 2 or 3 buddies around behind me, and we was catching them crappie. It was 42-degree water, and was catching them in less than 18 inches of water where the rod tips were
That'd be pretty fun though.
in
Yeah.
December. I mean, I mean, it's insane. But the length of the day goes on the spawn side of it. If them days get longer, those fish are going to be there. They know it until that temperature gets where they want it. Those fish are going to be moving there every time of year, certain times.
Is there anything that would screw that up?
That would screw that up.
Yeah.
On High Rock, yeah, the biggest thing that screws that up is the power companies that own it now don't care about the levels in it. So they'll take that, get those fish done, water temperature will get up, they'll raise that a foot. Then fish will go spawn and they'll rip it down 5 foot for 3 weeks.
Oh,
So that's why a lot of the fish here on our lakes, they're going to spawn some on the banks, but I think a lot more of our fish on the river system we have spawn out in 8 or 10, or do that their thing out in 7 to 10 foot of water more than anywhere.
so they spawning on like trees and stuff?
Trees, areas, sandy areas. I mean, you name it, anything's protected because I think they've just adapted to knowing that water changes so much. I mean,
Sure.
they could that like I could go to bed and it wouldn't surprise me tonight that if I woke up in the morning the water's down 5 foot in the morning. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
That turned a 1 day camping trip into a week.
If you're lucky, it might be a 3 week by the sounds of
So I
it.
mean, and that's what it is people don't realize. Up the river, like going up High Rock, you've got to pay attention to the power company and the water and all that stuff. And there's a couple different websites that monitor stuff on High Rock. I've been in some of these pockets up there on High Rock. Went into it full pool pond at lunchtime. Look at the thing; they've dropped it 3 foot.
Jeez.
And knowing, yeah, I'm fixing to bump the bottom getting out of here, and you've only got 3 foot of water to try to get on the deepest part to try to get the boat on plane. So I mean, it's I've went into a pocket one time, got in, bumped going in, turned, looked at my phone, didn't even let up. I made a big circle in there, turned, and went right back out
She's
because I
coming.
knew that the water was going down fast, and if I'd stopped and fished for an hour, I'd have been stuck.
Right. Well, that's one perk of the jet boat life is
That's right. We
if it,
love bumping the bottom.
yeah,
Yeah.
if it's wet, she'll make it. Just more gas.
That's why I said, that if if the only other boat I'll have will be a 16, 18 foot Luna boat, and it'll be a jet boat to do what I want to up the river, and that'll be it.
For, for sure. For sure. Joel asked a question. I'm kind of curious too. You ever fish with lights at night?
Man, we used to do a lot of trips like that at night. It's a blast. We used to do a lot in the summertime, but after COVID, I was still offering night trips, but I couldn't get nobody to bite. Everybody's off work. Everybody's getting money to stay home, so everybody was fishing during the day.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, fishing at night during the summer and the early spring and summer and into the fall is an awesome way to get out there and catch fish because all you gotta do is ride around, find the bait on your side scan or down scan, find the areas, drop the lights in. I want my lights in at 45 minutes to an hour before dark because I want my light under that water while it's still daylight. So as that sun's going down and it's getting dark, I'm sitting down there like street pole, so everything's
You're
coming to
it.
get us. It's getting darker.
Yep.
Right.
You're the main attraction.
That
Yep,
makes
because
sense.
you can go out there and put the light in at dark, but
Hmm.
if they're seeing that light as it's getting, they're going to start migrating there quicker.
Yeah, I've never even thought about that idea of it. Like that's
Yeah,
I'll have to keep that in mind if I ever do anything like that. And I love night fishing, so catching crappies after dark sounds like a good time.
it is. It's a real good time.
I guess well, now that you say that, I had a day ice fishing and I just get these ideas in my head, and once I get them in my head, like I'm too stubborn to quit. So I went to fish this. Yeah, Ryan laughs because he's like, "No
Yeah.
shit." Yeah.
Yeah. And about 25% of the time they pan out.
Yep. Maybe. I went ice fishing. And I decided I'm going walleye fishing, and I'm going to fish for walleyes. That's all I'm going to do. So there's this big main lake hump, and I was up on the edge of it, and I was filming and stuff, and had all my lights for filming or whatever, dropping big half-ounce rattle traps down, trying to call up walleyes, and this school of fish came through and bam, like 10, 12-inch crappie ate this half-ounce rattle trap. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. You're not a walleye, stupid crappie. And then I caught probably 6, 7, 8 of them. And I'm like, okay, this ain't going to work. Can't get away from these stupid crappies. So I moved my shack to the other side of the hump and had the lights on and everything, and they followed me. The crappies followed me over there. So I had a night. I mean, I probably caught 30 or 40 of them before I ended up calling it quits. Never did catch a walleye.
Uh,
Yeah, most
I'd
people
had
would have
them
been in
all loaded up.
heaven.
I'd had them all laying there on the ice ready to go to the house.
Yeah, I should have. I didn't even keep one. All I wanted was walleyes. You know, like I get in that mindset sometimes. Most of the time, I'm happy with what I get, but every once in a while, I'll get sucked into something like that, and then I'll look back and think about, well, that was dumb. You
Yeah.
know,
Wish I'd had that day again.
no shit. Yeah, we need to get you ice fishing one of these days, Shane. It's good to know that the cold don't bother you, although the cold today might have bothered you. Definitely. It wasn't too bad
No,
though.
It wasn't.
I've got I got plenty of layers. That's my thing. Is I'm gonna layer up. I promise you, to where it's gonna be enough to where if I get it ain't gonna be getting cold. I might be peeling it off.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it's always easy to take clothes off. It sucks when
Yep.
you just don't have enough.
Oh
Well, it
yeah.
sucks moving around in them. That's my hang up. Like I love t-shirt, shorts, and Crocs because like you're not restricted, but then you get a pile of clothes on you, and it's harder to move around. Although clothes are a hell of a lot better than they used to be. Like
Yeah.
you got good ice suits. You got like all the striker stuff is top notch and about as light as you're gonna get. But back in the day when it was all Carhartts, Carhartts is.
Then you get wet and soaked and
Yeah, I mean they're tough. They'll last forever, but man, they're heavy and they make it hard to move around.
Yeah, it's about like here. We were down at, like I said, on water the other day, and went out that morning. It was, I think we got on the boat. It was 33 degrees. We got on the boat, and by 1 o'clock it was 65. And we were all peeling out everything we had on.
it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to plan for a 30-degree swing.
It's like welcome to North and South Carolina. You can have all 4 seasons in the same day.
Right. Well, at least you had summer at some point in time.
Oh yeah.
Do you, Shane? Do you read many books?
I don't read a ton of books now.
Like not even fishing books, or have you ever read very many fishing books?
No, because most of the stuff that I've done for years is I spent more time on the forums back when there
Okay.
was true forums and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
learned it. Now, if you go in here and I've got notebooks upon notebooks. This is the biggest thing of every day we fish or everything we've done for the last, I don't know, 12 years or better in books I've got wrote down wherever I was at, whether it's here, a bad day of fishing, a good day of fishing, Alabama, Mississippi. I've got notes from everywhere.
How often do you look at them?
Not as often as I probably should, but I know they're there.
But
I think
you
just
do look back on certain situations. You're like, what was that?
Now I do like it for the simple fact that some of the stuff around here, whenever I look at pattern and stuff, especially with the Livescope coming into play, that there's areas that I had days where certain things make sense on why I was catching fish in some of those areas back then, and I couldn't
sure.
figure out why I was like on Tillery sitting in the mouth of the creek at 24, 27 in Rocky Creek in the mouth. We caught them out there one year in the mouth right off the river channel. Caught them fish and I think it's 35 foot of water, 4 foot deep.
That's
But
kind of neat.
now when we got the forward facing sonar, we got all that stuff, and now we see it. It's like, okay, I know exactly what to do when muddy water rolls in here, cold muddy water comes in. I know exactly where I'm going, what I'm doing, and the depth range I'm looking for.
Right.
Heck yeah.
But back then, I couldn't figure out why them fish were there. It was just,
Hell no.
I was like, why are these fish literally off the river channel in Tillery? Especially, Tillery is a long, narrow lake. They were in the river channel right there and just sitting there, 4 foot of water or 30 some foot of water, 4 foot down as far as they were.
Well, do you really need to know the why as long as you know the what?
Well,
As
my
long as it
thing
was
is,
consistent.
well, I'd like to know why is the what, but I like to, when I get on the water, if we're out there blistering, I mean, we're just catching them. Let's say we're throwing the same jig. I'm the type of guy that if I'm here by myself having a good time doing it, I'm probably taking that jig off and I'm gonna throw stuff at it to make them stop, just to
Just to
see
see.
what the
Yeah.
difference is. Because most people don't. Whenever they get out there catching, they're catching. When we catch fish on the boat, when I'm doing a guide trip, and especially if we're tight lining or if we're long line trolling, when fish start biting, the first thing I'm looking at is the depth finder to see how fast I'm going, what depth am I in, and what am I
Yep.
seeing.
Just replicate it. Yeah.
Yeah, because if that's what we're going to do today, but it may not be the same for the next 3 days. But I'm looking and trying to get that information, and that's the stuff that I come back and put in the books and look at. And
See,
sometimes it works from different lakes, sometimes it don't.
that's the bullshit part of crappie fishing versus flatheads. Is like you have so many more targets and so much more, like the data comes in so much quicker that where flatheads like if you catch 100 flatheads a year in the Midwest, you're doing something. You could
Yep.
have 100 crappies in a day in a lot of places. So like to try
Yep.
to do things that you don't think would work just to learn
Oh
an
yeah,
answer.
absolutely.
I know a
Yes.
lot of things that won't catch a flathead.
Right, right. The idea of doing it on purpose for flatheads almost seems absurd just
Yep.
because like I'll figure out what doesn't work trying to figure out what does work, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's sweet that you can do that.
Yeah.
And maybe
Well, it
that's
basically
why I'm
goes in
getting
there because the days when it, that's what I always tell people. The day you're catching is your least amount of learning. The days that you're struggling are when you're going to learn more than you really
oh
ever think you will.
1,000,000% on that
Yeah.
one. Well, so the reason I asked you if you read anything was it's going to ask you if you could recommend like a book for anybody who wants to get into crappie fishing. But is there like think of one thing information wise that you would recommend to somebody who's really interested in getting into crappie fishing that they should do or look into?
So there's actually two things that I would fully recommend on anybody looking to get into crappie fishing. Um, The first one would be go to the Crappie Connection. It's a podcast, just like you're doing here, but it
Mm-hmm.
is fully set on crappie fishing. It's my buddy Brad Chappell out in Mississippi. Um, I fished with him years ago. Whenever we fished, we done stuff here, we done tournaments, and whenever I was like, you know what, I was doing some guide and doing things, I want to go learn. I went with him because I wanted to learn long line trolling. He still is one of the best long line trollers there is. So when I went with him, that's what we focused on. Me and my buddy went out there and it was like, all right, yeah, we want to catch fish, but we're out here with you for 2 days. We really want to understand why you're doing it, what you're doing, how you change, what to look for. Um, that's a good thing. And then, like I said, they go everywhere. The second one is crappie.com. It is just a forum and it is broke down state by state. You can go in there, it's free, it don't cost anything. Get in there and talk to all these guys. You can zoom, you can dial in on your state all the way down to your lake, your lakes that you fish. That website's or that forum has been around for as long as I can ever remember. Ed Mose out of Florida started it years ago, and it was basically to build the camaraderie and help people that are wanting to get into fishing take some of the don'ts out of it or the mistakes that way you don't spend money. I wish I'd have had some other stuff because I set my boats up I don't know how many times, spent a lot of money. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
shoot, if I'd have had some of this other stuff, I'd have saved so much. Wouldn't have been as many holes in my boats and all that other crap. So but but no, the Crappie Connection and then Crappie.com. Crappie.com's probably done more for me than anything. Um, Met a lot of people on it, a lot of nice people. Well, you're still going to get some people that want to. Well, like, well, you should know that. Well, you don't do that. When you go to these forums, everybody's wanting to learn, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's some great information, man. Like I'm gonna check out them things. As
Yeah,
far as the you should know that stuff, like
yeah,
you only know what you know.
Yeah. There was a
exactly.
day that guy didn't know that. You
Absolutely.
got to learn it.
Yep.
Yep. And the day you're scared to ask a question is the day you're not going to learn. I mean, I learned more by and like I said, when I really started into crappie fishing, like I want to do tournament stuff, I want to do that. I focused on myself, had my Carolina skiff. I was gonna fish the way I fished, went and fished local trails, got my butt kicked, donated my money for years, watched these guys do it, but I learned so much more by standing at the weigh-ins, listening to these people, talking to them, because most of them will tell you. They're not going to tell you exactly what spot they caught them. They're going to tell you, hey, we caught them in 3 foot of water. We were long line trolling. We were having to roll a mile and a half because we were so shallow just to get the fish to bite. But they were generally willing to help you. And the first tournament, well, I remember one of the first ones I went down. We were low line trolling about 10 o'clock in the morning. I was by myself. The last 3 weeks, it took about 9 pounds to win. About 9:30, 10 o'clock that morning, I'm sitting over 8.5 pounds going, I'm going to be in the top. I'm going to be right here in it so I can say, yes, I did this. Man, it was like 13 pounds, 12 pounds. I mean, it was
Just a slaughter
deflated my
fest.
bubble like anything. And that's when, we really started talking to guys. But being out there on the water, I was learning where these guys are catching fish, the time of years they were fishing, why are they doing that? That portrayed me or got me so much farther than just going out there and fishing and not going to that tournament.
That's a great piece of advice too, like beyond the podcast and the forums. And I'll agree with that 1,000,000%. If you're serious about getting good at fishing for something, go fish a tournament, even if you're going to get your ass kicked. Because like I've been fishing some tournaments, and that was my thought process behind even giving it a try. Like I'm not out to make a living doing it or win a bajillion dollars, but I really just thought that this would be the best way for me to become the best catfisherman I can be. And so far it is. Like I am 100 times better at catfishing today than I was this day a year ago. And it's all because I dipped my toe in the water of some tournament fishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy what you can learn out there with it. I mean, I've had days like that where I've been whooped, and me and my old partner and stuff, we've had days to where we had a tournament over here in Raleigh on Falls Lake, and we knew we were going to be in the top 3 because we spent the time on the water that week. I mean, that lake is 2 hours away from our house. I made that drive myself 4 times that week to pre-fit because I was going that just because it was a body of water we don't fish all the time,
Right.
but I wanted to that tournament. I was going to make a statement, and we go in, we're sitting there. We had boats all around us, and no big deal, nothing different. We ended up winning that tournament. We had almost 15 pounds of 7 fish, and the next closest weight was 12. So we had them good days like that. The other ones, but we've had it, but it was just time on the water and figuring it out. And everybody was like, "Where were they at? And what are they doing?" And about 8 or 10 of the boats go, "Shit, we worked around them all day long." It was
Mm-hmm.
just we capitalized on the fish that bit.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's just another lesson learned from all of that stuff.
yeah.
Well, on a less serious note, this will probably be the last question I ask. What what's a fishing product you wish somebody would invent?
Oh man,
Would invent.
would invent.
Like some people suck at setting the hook, so there's rod holders that set the hook for you.
Called circle hooks.
Or yes.
Oh man, I don't know.
I'll go first. You guys think about it. I wish there was a hook, and I'm kind of playing around with some stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to making anything that happen, like anything like that happen. But I would like to invent or find somebody that would invent a hook that hooks flatheads and blues is like equally well, because circle hooks, the only way to go for blues. J hooks, in my opinion, are the only way to go with flatheads.
What is
And
your
I know
reasoning behind that? Just curious.
the reasoning's all speculation because I can't see underwater, but blues got big old blubber lips, and I think
Yeah.
when they hit it so damn hard that
I think
they
that's
grab
me.
it, run, it pulls in the corner of their mouth, and they bite so hard too. So between the big blubber lips, they hit it hard. They bite so hard that once that hook finally moves, it catches on all the meat in the corner of their mouth. Where The flatheads, they don't move, they don't hit it as hard as blues most of the time. And then their lips don't have all that fatty flesh
Yep.
in the corner for that hook point to get caught on and rotate into.
Gotcha.
So I think that's the reason. Now whether those are the reasons or not, I don't know for sure, but that's my hypothesis on the whole ordeal. Larry says underwater trail cam. They got an aqua view. Well, but that's not a trail cam.
No, you can't just set it and forget it.
Yeah, that's true.
Have y'all seen the fishing the powered line that attaches to the camera, the fishing line? So I don't know what it's called. Go on there and look. It puts camera fishing line. Look that up.
Okay.
They've actually got it where it's the actual fishing line. It's got the fibers run through to the camera that you hook on. I've been seeing a lot of them use it like up north for like trolling, I guess for muskie, offshore trolling, and it looks back on your bait while you're trolling underwater and getting all that footage, then fish coming up to it.
That'd be freaking cool.
I don't know how much that stuff costs or that reel and that line, but you just everything hooks onto the reel, the line goes on, and all that feed comes back.
What's it called again? Howard camera?
I don't know what it's called. I've just seen videos of it. It's a actual fishing line that has the camera wire run through it.
Fishing line camera. Oh, Michael says automatic cast net caster. I've seen something that's close. It doesn't work for big cast nets, but you can get a 4 or 5 footer that's got this metal ring, and you hold the metal ring, and then you lay the cast net over the metal ring, and you can throw that thing one-handed.
Like a frisbee. Yeah.
Yeah, you throw it you can drink a beer. Like I could have my beer in one hand and throw it with the other. And the only reason I know you can do that is because I've done it.
I tried to order one of those one time, and evidently it was a scam because I never got my friggin' net.
They probably went out of business or something. So AquaView has the Strike View lure camera. It's on sale on Amazon right now, $90.
That's a camera that goes on your line. This is I'll send it to you if I run across it. Find it. This is actually the line winds up on your reel, and it is like a camera line that you can reel fish in. It's crazy expensive. It's stupid.
Well, there's the Hiltand Fish Finder Kit underwater camera for 115. But there's one on Temu. That one's only $50. I'm sure it works great.
Might as well get 3 of them.
Right. Just have an arsenal of them. Yeah, you find that, you let me know.
I will. Like I said, it's crazy because I've seen the inline cameras like the one you just talked about. I've seen those doing them, but this was crazy because it actually. That's what I was like. This can't be real, but it is actually has the cable.
What would be the advantage of that versus the inline, the one you tie on your line?
I guess it's real time because they actually had the screen. We're on the.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, you could physically. It was real time. It had a battery pack. It was crazy. That inline when you're not going to get the video off until you get it back in the boat.
Right.
Oh, I just missed a 50.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just tie your Livescope transducer to your fishing line and send it back and then be able to look at your screen.
I'd get snagged and it'd be gone and I'd be pissed.
Michael said he tried that cast net with the metal ring and he said he still sucks. I feel you, buddy. I've been down that road before.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not a big cast net guy. Usually, if the bait's full, I'm just like, please put me on a big pot of bait. That way, especially where the coast and stuff, just put me on the big stuff. We get it half open, but that's still all we need.
That's right.
Hey, those tacos sink faster. That's what I say. It's better for the deep bait.
Yeah.
Tom would love to see a live stream from a camera like that. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I might have to look into that because that would be an awesome live stream.
Yeah.
You're talking about the camera?
The one you were talking about.
Oh, yeah. When I run across, I always see it pop up and see stuff. When I see it, I'll send it to you. It was crazy. When I clicked on it, I think the line itself was like $900 or something like that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking about how cool that would be to like do a podcast live and then have the
Yep.
live
As
imaging.
the fourth
That would be cool.
guy.
Yeah, that would be cool to be able to sit there and watch that. And
Yeah.
there's some of them that actually do it. I think it might be offshore or on the pier too. But yeah, to watch that fish go up and see how he's reacting. It you may get the information you need for your hook.
Right. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
But for $900, he better.
Yeah. I just need to quit buying boats and then it wouldn't be a big deal.
You can't have a fleet until you get 4 more.
Uh,
Well, let's do the last cast, boys. We're an hour and a half in. Last cast, Shane, is basically you get to talk about whatever you want to end the podcast on. Like pimp your business out, talk about your guide business, talk about any of your sponsors, any of that type of stuff. And it's kind of your little send off. And when everybody else is doing theirs, feel free to interrupt and make fun of them anytime you want.
no, man. Yeah, it's just I appreciate you having me or calling me, get me on here. It's been a blast, man. It's been fun. I know we got to hang out some this year at CatCon and get to know each other a little bit, and hopefully we're gonna get you out this way soon to do some fishing all the way around too. So, but
Well, when
no,
we end, don't just leave. I
okay,
want to talk to you about that.
all right. But no, like I said, my biggest thing, man, if you're in North Carolina, give me a shout. We'll go fishing. I love getting people in. Reach out to me at Shane Walser Fishing. That'll be great. But man, if you're interested in going into this fishing and getting into it, man, don't get out there, ask questions. Don't be afraid to message people. If you've got people that don't want to message you back and talk to you, don't take that for everybody. Go to the next one, man. There's plenty of people that are willing to help you. Um, look for these podcasts. Look for these things you can jump on and listen to. Um, man, just get the kids involved with it as well. Because if we don't get the youngins involved with it and see these kids, there is going to be no more sport in the next 30, 40 years if we don't do it.
Yeah.
Amen to
Whether it be
that, bud.
crappie, catfish, striper, whatever it may be, if they're not involved, we're not going to have it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who want to take it away, and I think that's the thing that people miss on that is their strength in numbers. And if people don't want to do it, there's enough people who want to take it away. So if there's nobody to fight back, it goes bye bye.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Hell yeah.
but no,
Well, I
Shane,
will.
it was nice talking to you.
absolutely.
You had some great information for me to think on and put into my world, which I always appreciate. That's one of the greatest parts about doing these podcasts is just picking that little nuggets of knowledge up and implicating them into my arsenal, which is awesome.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's just like jumping on a boat. You learn something new every time you talk to somebody.
Absolutely. Except Spencer, he's just full of shit. But
all right, so we're going to do one. I'm going to take Spencer. We're going to do the plug. Hey, guys, catchfever.com. Go check us out.
I did just get me a few precision crappie rods in the mail.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about putting them to use, man. So you look at the pictures of them, and I'm like, those kind of look weird because of the long front handle and the short butt. But they must be counterweighted a little bit because I put a spinning reel on one and they bounced out like awesome.
Yeah, the whole reason behind that butt that's on there doing it is have it to where those reels are bounced out. A lot of those casting rods like that have that longer back end.
Yeah,
So when you're casting it, you're doing it. A lot of guys were especially pitching and getting used to this Livescope and pitching. That longer butt was catching them on the side. So we
sure.
Whitey's design and all of them shortened up, put that balance. But you take that any one of those rods and put a 500 to 1,000 series reel on them, dude. It's insane.
I got 2000s on them and they're balanced out
Yep.
really nice. The
Oh,
only
yeah.
reason I like the 2000 over the 1000 or 500 size is just the gear ratio,
Gotcha.
and I don't have the 10 or 12 or 14 footers. I got the casting
Yep.
rod 6.5,
Yep.
7 footers. So
Yep.
being able to pick up line real quick seems to help with my limited crappie fishing.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I will end by saying thank you to both of you for hopping on. Thank you to everybody who took the time to watch, listen, and appreciate all the comments. They're pretty tame this week. Nobody, it was a fairly serious, straightforward podcast, so nobody was talking as much trash as normal. But that's okay. I like switching things up. I like learning stuff, and I appreciate you, Shane, all the things you took the time to share on here. It was a good time.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you calling and get me on, man. I was excited when you shot me the message.
Well, you were one of the first guys I thought of because I was like, man, no matter what, you got some freaking good things to share that people are going to find some value in. And at the end of the day, if nobody else gives a shit, well, I enjoy it and I learned a whole bunch. So.
Yeah, we're not making shit, so we might as well do what we want.
Absolutely.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you watching, and see you Monday, 6:30 Central Standard Time. Our next guest will talk a lot of shit, so he probably won't give any useful information. He might. He knows a little bit about fishing, but it'll be a good one too. Hell yeah. Thanks, guys. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.